Hi, this is Marcel. He's our interviewee today for our marketing class. And I'm going to ask him some questions about marketing. He's a creative freelance marketing consultant. And here we go. So, what does a freelance creative marketing consultant such as yourself do in terms of marketing a company?
Well, marketing is such a huge industry, and every consultant is a little bit different. For me, I do a lot of content strategy work, whether that whatever the vehicle is. Some companies like to do it through video, some like to do it through just a traditional media like text and image, whatever they need. I tend to do kind of like high level strategic work. So I say, what is the constituent group that is your main following?
Mm-hmm.
What resonates with them? We kind of do we listen to them a little bit, and then we kind of create the strategy around that mixed with whatever the message is that they need to get out there. So I guess you could say it's a lot of copywriting, it's definitely a lot of graphic design, and it's a lot of just outlining, storyboarding, working closely with companies to kind of craft the message.
Excellent, excellent. I like that. I like that. All right. Next question for you. What was the defining moment that you made a change from fine arts into marketing?
I was really fortunate. I went to the School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston at Tufts University, and that school just cranks out a lot of working artists. I
Mm-hmm.
think it takes a lot of pride in creating artists that are not only pigeonholed in fine art and their visual practice, but also do go out and work, whether they're, set designers in Hollywood or people in marketing like me, or even more kind of like fine tune artistic pursuits. But I think the defining moment for me was I graduated from school. I was struggling with unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to get my foot in the door somewhere, and I actually began doing work in the fundraising kind of sphere. I started at UC San Diego. It was my very first job out of college, and I was in their fundraising department, which fundraising and marketing, they share a DNA. I think that people
Yeah.
forget that fundraising is all about pitching, making cases, getting
Yeah.
people to commit to something, and marketing is kind of the same thing. So there was a lot of overlap between the two disciplines, and then and fundraising itself has an extensive marketing
Yeah.
component too. So I sort of floated in a more general area, and I was an administrative assistant, and then I was more turned on to the marketing side of things.
Yeah.
I was turned on to the writing. I was turned on to the events, and then I drifted into the kind of event production range from there, which also became the seed for my eventual work in the music industry and like the local music scene here in San Diego.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So, last question from me, and then we're gonna go ahead and have Laz come on. But
Okay.
here it is. As a marketing professional, what challenges arise when marketing a company?
I think the challenge that arises with the clients is the clients always think they need something, but they need some, but they what they actually need is much bigger. So a client will come to me typically and say, "We just want to get this message out. None of us are writers, or none of us are skilled communicators. We just want to know how to do it, and get and penetrate that audience." But um, for someone like me, I always know that deep down inside, what has to happen is storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
and it's much bigger than just we're trying to promote an event or we're trying to promote a product. It's kind of like, how do you insert your story of your company into the story of the consumer,
Yeah.
and how do you translate that value that you've shown in this company, to the consumer? Because to the consumer, they're inundated, with a lot of marketing imagery. They're oversaturated. They're even like turned off when they see marketing stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of find myself making the case with, hey, let's do something a little non-traditional. Let's use an authentic voice. Let's try to penetrate in this new way, because I think people are getting more and more wary of marketing sounding stuff. They're just not into it. They can tell when it's happening.
Yeah.
They're feeling manipulated when it's
Yeah.
happening. And so they're pushing that kind of stuff away. So in marketing, it's actually a really nice creative challenge, because it's like, all right, then how do we get the real stuff, the real important, valuable stuff up from all of this marketing mess,
Mm-hmm.
and show it to the customer and say, this is actually what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want this.
Yeah.
This is what you really do want. But it's up to us to present it to you in an authentic way. So I think that's kind of where marketing's been heading over the the past 5 years, and certainly digital mediums make it even more tiring to just see, marketing stuff constantly. I think people are getting like, okay, I'm seeing it in like when I open up Netflix, I'm seeing it when I open up Facebook, I'm seeing it every day, all day long. So we're always trying to like be 2 steps ahead in marketing and be like, okay, what is going to continue to reach people?
Excellent. I love it. I love that. All right, great. Thank you for talking to me. And now I'm gonna have
Thank
Laz.
you.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have Laz come on now, real quick, okay?
Cool.
And then we're gonna have 2 more guys after that.
Hey Marcel, how's it going?
Hey Laz, how you doing?
Nice to meet you. So
Nice to meet
it's
you.
actually cool that you were talking about advertisement, because that's actually the first question that I had. I was gonna ask you, in a world full of advertising, how do you make your advertisement stand out from the rest? And I feel like that's cool because you were just explaining that concept. Yeah, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's interesting, one of my more recent billboards was for a male clinic that was offering kind of like body sculpting and stuff like that. And they were like, how do we make this authentic? And how do we elevate this? And I'm like, let's go to the nuts and bolts of what you're selling. So in that example, I was like, you're kind of selling that you're improving the male body. So leaving imagery of the male body out of it would be a miss. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it kind of comes down to, with every single company or brand or product, we have to have an honest conversation about what this is and what we're trying to get people to do or to buy, and how do we make that profitable. But like I was just saying, in response to Alex's question about authenticity, I do think there's a growing trend for that voice to come through very authentically, and there's different ways to do it. Some brands like to do it with just the least amount of words possible. Some brands like to do it with a lot of visuals, and some actually like to take some time and tell the story, maybe through a series of videos or through a longer written piece. But no matter what works for the brand the most and what they want to do, I think what has to happen is the brand and the consumer, the veil between them needs to be lifted, and the consumer needs to feel intimate with the brand.
Right.
So I do think that is that affects advertising as well. And so to answer your question, I think traditional advertising mediums there's still interest in them. I mean, obviously stuff in the paper form is going away, so I'm not seeing as much interest in like advertising in a magazine, but I'm still seeing interest in like conquering the digital realm. I'm still seeing like I just said, billboards.
Yeah.
So, I'm seeing stuff like that happen. And I'm also seeing advertising, rather than going to the big guys, like we used to, we're actually more interested in finding those little niche publications that are more community oriented, that we know that people are just reading for fun.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're trying to hit these days.
Right. And to ask my second question, how has social media affected this? Like both the positives and the negatives.
Yeah, oh my gosh, so many positives, so many negatives.
Yeah. What are like the top 3, if you could like just say them out?
Yeah. So the positives of social media is that it's, people are using smart devices like their phones to evangelize. They're using it to take control of the narrative, to contribute to the narrative. And the fun thing, so the pro for us in marketing is knowing that and taking advantage of that, so that others also tell our story, so that others feel like they can tell our story and hopefully portray the story in a positive light.
Right.
The negatives from that are the same negatives with just being inundated with marketing constantly. I think because of those same mediums, because of the digital medium itself, people are completely barraged by imagery and by marketing attempts. And it's so funny. I think that when I talk to my friends about it, both professionally and non-professionally, you can hear, it's like there's this way you can just read that something's like trying to get your attention.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it can, based on your own personality, it could feel fine, neutral, good, or gross.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. I agree with that.
Disingenuous, So I think that the building blocks of how to communicate well, and that come from just using the same strategy you would use to communicate successfully with another human being.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
So that's kind of what I try to specialize in.
That's cool. And to finish my last one, nowadays I feel like reputations of a company are just as important as the product or service that the company offers. What advice do you give companies to try to like enhance their image in the eyes of like the public and or their customers?
I think that's a really important question, especially today. I think reputation is a huge issue today. I think that, for example, in the past, so much of the marketing dollars were spent trying to suppress information, like, you know what I mean? And it was kind of easier back in the day to do that. Like again, we didn't have these like kind of mini computers that everyone has to like track, record, document, and share information across the planet. So
Right.
it was easier to control that information as well. But nowadays, we're finding that um, what is the expression from? It's like a good defense is the best offense.
Right.
So I think that we make every decision. I try to advise my clients with a reputation forward approach. So it's the same as being customer centric. It's like, how do we anticipate what the questions and objections will be before they happen? How do we move the narrative away from that and get it into a positive place? But also, how do we not shy away and not back down when a customer very rightly comes forward and asks a really important question that's really complex, you know?
Right.
I think the best way to do it is to be authentic and address it head on and not
Okay.
shy away from it, for sure. There's always a really, I think it's kind of funny. To me, it's common sense, but show some diplomacy. You just have to kind of not shy away from it, kind of give the best answer you can possibly give, embrace and accept when you don't know, embrace and accept when you have to say sorry.
Right.
Like there's no way around it these days.
Right. I just own up to it. Yeah.
Yeah, people are waiting for it.
Right.
So if you don't do it, you're messing up big time.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thank you very much for answering these questions, for taking time out of your schedule. And now I'm gonna hand it off to Roman. It was a pleasure meeting you, man. Appreciate it.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Hello, Marcel. I'm Roman.
Hi, how you doing, Roman?
I'm good. You?
Good.
Okay. So my first question is, on average, how much time do you spend a week on a client, and how long? What's the longest you ever spent with the client?
Time management is huge for a freelancer. I think it varies from client to client. It varies from project to project. You know, at the beginning of every interaction with a client, we scope out the work and we come to kind of a soft agreement about, or maybe even a more formal agreement about the time spent and my availability. In general, I like to be available for all my clients anytime, just to have a conversation at least. We might not actually take action, but we can at least start to sow the seeds for a future actionable item. To answer that question, I feel like in a perfect world, I'm able to kind of spread things out daily and take on like a certain plate of clients on one day and then maybe completely switch the next day. It's good for me too, because for everyone it's different, but for me the momentum works better if I'm able to really switch, you know what I mean, day to day. I'll of course handle things that have to be done on multiple days in a row, but it's kind of nicer creatively to juggle that way, you know what I mean?
So to build on that question, how many clients do you say you could work with at the same time, and how do you balance working with each of those clients?
For sure. It depends on the scale. You know, one of my biggest clients in recent times was UC San Diego, and they asked me to kind of head this huge marketing campaign, and that was so huge that I could only have 2 more additional clients of a certain size that same time, because I was pretty much clocking 40, 50 hours a week on that. But it was a wonderful opportunity in every single way, so I was able to do that. I think when they're all kind of the same scale, it's nice to have a good 6 to 10, depending, and I think I have a good bandwidth just by myself to do that. If I need more people, I have a really great professional network, and I can build a team around a project, and then we kind of share the load, obviously, in a totally different way. I might just pull back and do like high level strategy work, and then kind of spread it out to like a graphics person, or maybe even another writer, although I usually like to do the writing myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so with working from 6 to 10, how do you balance like your real life and your marketing life?
It's tough. I think one of the ways I've addressed the work-life balance is I'm getting more work in industries where I like to be social. So it makes it a lot easier if the way that you're networking is kind of coinciding with where you're partying and spending your time naturally, which is great. So I've been working in kind of the music circuit down here. So things I would already like to do, like maybe attend a festival or maybe attend a dance event, becomes a great place for me to also network professionally and book work too. So I'm trying to just be as integrated as possible. And other professionals are different. They don't seek integration. Some might want to be more compartmentalized and have a really clear separation. But for me, my flow state is better when it's all just like running together and blending. You know, that's for me. But I'm fortunate. I mean, I'm also, you know, a gay Asian male in my 30s without a kid. So I feel like it's harder when you have like a family situation to think about and stuff like that. But I'm very fortunate. I get to kind of do what I want at this time anyway. So it's been working for me.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm gonna hand you off to my buddy Justin. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hey Marcel, I'm Justin.
What's up, Justin? How you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing great.
Okay, so my first question for you is, what's your favorite part about being a freelance creative marketer?
My favorite part, there's lots of favorite parts. I think my favorite part about being a freelancer in general is just the ability to be autonomous and to set my own schedule and to kind of like, you know, take advantage of my own strengths and weaknesses. Like I'm a very nocturnal person, so obviously a traditional 9 to 5 job is really, really hard. Like I remember going to the office at 9 a.m. being like, I have nothing. I'm just there, like, let's bullshit at the coffee cart for a bit, because like I can't just jump into my work.
Right.
But for whatever reason, when it's 9 p.m., I'm like highly creative. I have a lot of thoughts going. So freelancing gives you the ability to take advantage of that. My favorite part about being a creative is that, you know, I think creativity is on a much bigger philosophical scale. It's what constantly saves the world. And, you know, I had a very academic upbringing. I had a really kind of traditional family. But with the strength of that is they always pushed intellectuality. And so I find that creativity is where I'm able to be intellectual in my line of work, which is really, really fun. You know, I think even if it comes down to just message making for a brand or product, you know, it comes from a lot of intellectual conversation up front about like, what is this? Who is this for? How are they going to react to it when they see this? Da, 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 da. So that kind of stuff, that turns me on personally. So I really enjoy those aspects of being creative.
That's pretty cool. My second question is, what top 3 traits should a marketer have?
Perseverance, you know, there's a lot of trial and error. A lot of clients have a really defined image of what they think they want, and if you don't deliver it, sometimes it can be really disheartening for you. But you just have to remember, like, first of all, listen. You know, I think that would be actually the second trait too, is listen, and listen to the client and listen to the people you're trying to reach, and just incorporate their thoughts into what you're doing. Always be willing to evolve and get better through listening and trying to deliver, you know, what your client wants. But also listen to yourself and trust yourself as a professional too, and say, hey, you know, I know this is what you guys think you want, but I really feel like in taking a broader look at everything, you might benefit from a strategy adjustment. You know, and that's hard. I mean, I certainly wasn't like that in year one. You know, I tended to be just more like a workhorse who was like, you know, wanting to deliver exactly what they wanted and feeling a failure. You know, but now I have much more confidence, and I feel like I can negotiate with my clients and say, hey, you know, kind of put it back on them and say, are you listening to your own people that you want to get money from? You know, because they're telling you something about what they want to do with you. And you can't just force them. You know, you have to, in this day and age, answering for questions from earlier, I think companies have to work hand in hand with their consumers, and the consumers are seeking that intimate connection more than ever, you know. So it's getting harder to just be like, drink Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? The people are going to be like, why should I fucking drink Coca-Cola? And you're like, fuck, all right, I have to think about, you know, why should I drink Coca-Cola? That's a great question. They probably shouldn't, but we still have to sell it, you know? So yeah, it's I would say determination and perseverance, listening, and then the ability to evolve and change.
Okay, great. My last question for you is, what advice would you give for a future marketer?
I think just jump in and find the area that is naturally open to you. You know, it would be nice if everyone could jump in on a corporate level, right, and then start to kind of cut their teeth on those kinds of issues and the kinds of projects that tend to happen on the corporate level. But the reality is, marketing skills can be taken from any situation where you need finesse, any situation where you need to convince someone of something, any situation where you need to be persuasive. So even on a local level, you can start small. You can say, hey, I want to help market this party, or I want to help market this, Dia de los Muertos event for this organization. I mean, wherever you can get your feet wet, start to do it. Because to me, I think marketing, on a business side, it's about making something profitable. But I think on a creative side, it's about making a case. And case building stuff is all over the planet. And we always need people who are going to help with that. So I can just push any marketer who's new in their career, or perhaps is still getting educated in it, to just start volunteering and just start helping others to make cases for themselves. And you'll find that you'll kind of figure out where in marketing you're going to land, because we know marketing is huge. There's a huge business side, and it's all about numbers, and it's all about responding to RFPs and ROIs. And there's also this huge creative side, which, if you're lucky in that, you could be a graphic designer and never have to touch the other business side. But more what we're seeing more and more is we're seeking creatives who can do both and be comfortable in both realms. And those are the people who tend to become directors and move up in the field. So definitely just get as much experience as you possibly can.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all my questions. Thanks for taking your time to do this interview with us. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hey.
Hey.
All right. So thank you so much. I just really appreciate all the time you gave for this and your insight. And we couldn't have done it without you. And we really appreciate all the things that you said. So thank you so much. And
Cool.
it was so nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you too. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll be back home soon.
Okay, cool. Bye.
All right. Bye.